Good afternoon once again. I want to call back into session the Board of Supervisors after a brief recess for the remainder of the afternoon session for our March 1st meeting. So, Flo, could you call a roll, reestablish a quorum, please?
Absolutely. Supervisor Cerna?
Here.
Kennedy? Peters?
Here.
Frost?
Here.
Natoli?
Here.
And you have a quorum.
Thank you.
Okay, for your first item today, this is the Cortland and Walnut Grove Special Planning Area Amendments. Request to adopt zoning code amendments to the Cortland and Walnut Grove Special Planning Area ordinances. The environmental determination is exempt.
Yeah.
Great. And do you want to go ahead and read item 3 in as well?
Sure.
They're somewhat related.
Yeah.
For item number 3, that's the general plan boundary interpretation for parcel ending in 056 in Cortland.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Leanne Moffitt, your planning director. The first item here on the Cortland and Walnut Grove Special Planning Area amendments, your Board of Supervisors has already heard the full staff presentation on this at one of your previous meetings. There were some questions raised by the chairperson of the Delta Municipal Advisory Committee, and so staff has gone back and met with the Delta MAC on both November 9th and November 30th to review the proposal that was before you. There was also a question by a property owner on Cortland, and that's a subject of the second item that I'll be covering on the general plan piece. But focusing first on the zoning amendment, there was a minor change that's been made since we gave the staff presentation as requested by the Delta MAC, which is in the Walnut Grove town, in the commercial residential sub-area. They did indicate that they would prefer triggering a zoning administrator conditional use permit for small wineries and microbreweries because there is residential in that area. Upon further reconsideration, they were concerned about the potential impacts of a small winery or brewery in an area that has residential and thought a zoning administrator permit would be a better mechanism rather than permitting that outright.
Okay.
So that is the primary change. In the Cortland SPA, we swapped out to a color map from a black and white map, so a very minor change there. The Delta MAC also had a conversation about potentially having a follow-up subsequent project funded separately from this to expand the Walnut Grove area. So that's also discussed in the board. But other than that, this item is ready for your consideration and adoption.
Leanne, let me see if there's any questions. I have a couple comments, but let's see any members of the board any questions. First, I want to express thanks to you and certainly Surrender, Tim Kohaya, and others who've worked on this project. I think it was kind of understated in the staff reports that it's been a multi-year, last 3-year multi-year project, but it's been, kind of on again, off again, and certainly with a good deal of community engagement. I appreciate Mr. Stump being here, but other members of the community, certainly in Cortland and Walnut Grove, have been involved in the Delta Citizens Municipal Advisor Council as well. I appreciate Gil Labrie and those folks for their engagement. And I know it's been, as I said, a good deal of time to get this to us, and we actually continued it now for a few months. You had it before us in October, and again in the before the holidays, but would just note that I think this is a culmination, at least what we have before us, of work that was probably well overdue, if not long overdue, and I think it further cements certainly this county's commitment, both from a land use perspective, but also from perspective of community life and quality of life, of wanting to have our Delta communities and the people who constitute those communities have, thriving, prospering communities that reflect the charm and uniqueness of Delta towns and communities, but also given the opportunity to have uses that may change with the times, and certainly the commercial usage, but also the livability of the residential areas, and certainly in the case of Walnut Grove with the industrial areas, and some of that as well as in the at least commercial areas in the Cortland area. So that being said, again, I just want to thank you and your staff, and I would ask the question. It's in the staff report. You referenced it because I think a desire to actually have a deeper look at the west side of Walnut Grove. Walnut Grove is cut nearly in two by the Sacramento River, and of all the Delta towns, that's the only one that actually resides on both sides of the river. And so I think part of the desire was maybe incorporate that into the either SPA or to the planning elements that were covered in the in some of the mapping, as well as some of the uses, and maybe help clean up some of the long-standing setback and other issues that relate to times in the past when maybe those things weren't as critical, either zoning or building-wise. So I guess I would ask you what needs to happen in order to, I think you're looking at a number of things that have made it to the list of amongst members of the Board of Supervisors, certainly communities we represent individually and collectively to embark on. And so again, your list is probably long, but this is one I think that certainly there is a commitment by the community to engage, but obviously you have to devote staff time and the resources to do that, and that competes with other things that people would like to see done as well. So maybe you could just weigh in on that.
Yes, so obviously there is an interest of doing this. I probably have mentioned to board members, we have a sort of going list of various zoning code amendments, county code amendments, and some interest in various targeted community planning exercises. So this would be on that list. We'd be working to try to prioritize and figure out staffing for how to achieve those. I can't necessarily commit to starting this in the near-term future, but I can certainly commit to putting it on that list. So as we work our way through some of those, this one could then rise to the top. So
will that be something to be back to the board again? I know each of us again has individually weighed in on that, but also in discussions that we have on different items before the board. So when is it that you would either present that to us, or we'd have that time? Either is it budget time? Is it when you put together a work plan for the year? When would we?
I don't really have scheduled an item. I mean, we've been trying to work through things, and that's mostly been working pretty well. We've been trying to work with each of the district offices so that we can be doing something in many of the districts going on, and making sure that we staff that. Obviously the budget is a time for us to make sure we have enough staff. I don't know that I was planning on hiding that micro level of detail in the budget. It's a little bit maybe too much detail for the budget hearings.
Because this type of planning effort won't get done unless it's initiated by the county, because you're not going to have an applicant that's going to come forward and say, let's bring in the western half of Walnut Grove to bring it to the SPA. It's going to be something, again, it's going to require some devotion of resources and staff time, not unlike other community initiatives.
Right. But the board has provided funding recently to increase staff in our zoning administration section. Okay. And we have been using some of the budget in our general plan implementation to do like west of Galt and some other activities. So we do have some capacity to take these on. And we have just been, doing that as we get through one, recycling and urban ag and other things. Then when one's done, we can add another one to the list, and mostly we.
So this one would be added to the list, and then
it'll be added to the list, and we will work on getting it. And we have been, we finished urban ag, we finished the zoning code update, we finished a bunch of fix-its. So we're going to finish west of Galt here in a while. So we have been able to add new things on as we've been completing activities.
Good. Okay. All right. I don't see other questions up here. I don't know if you want to cover item 3. I think I see John's in the audience, and we can talk about that. And
yeah, I can go ahead and move into item 3, and then you can sort of take the actions back to back in case there is any relationship. This one had some maps associated with it, so I did prepare a PowerPoint so you could have the visuals. So if I could have the PowerPoint on item 3. So at your hearing of October 4th, Mr. Stump, who's a landowner in Cortland, came to the board expressing some concerns based on materials that had been brought forward to the board during the general plan update. And one of the things that we did during the general plan update is that we created a GIS layer version of the general plan. Historically, way back in the day, the general plan had essentially been a hand-colored map. And in some cases, it was very general. So we did.
Was the swoosh of a yellow pen? Was
squishy circles. Let's just circle like that. Very diagrammatic in some cases. And So with the new GIS capabilities, we assigned a couple staff. It took quite a long while, and they basically created a general plan designation for every parcel in the county. And I have those detailed maps in my office about the interpretations that we made. We put in the zoning code some provisions for how to deal with things in case we incorrectly digitized anything, and shockingly, very little has come up since 2011 where we've made a mistake. I've rarely ever had to pull out those books, maybe once, and I'm just amazed at what a good job staff did in terms of creating that, because virtually nothing has ever come up. However, in this case, something did come up at the board. So
You had to pull out the book.
pull out a lot of materials here. So when we created this digitized map, this is the map that we brought forward to the board, and we showed the entire parcel 132.0190.056 as being ag res in our digitized version of the general plan. And so this map is the original blobby general plan. And we even created this, so it's really like a hand-colored map that we have somewhere over in our office that just had this swirly thing. Most areas of the county were a little bit more precise, where the zoning more clearly matched the general plan blob. Because this was in the Delta, for whatever historic reasons, this was actually one of the more diagrammatic areas of the county and much more open to interpretation. When we actually created the GIS layer, we ended up matching the zoning. So we only showed a portion of the parcel for ag res, and we showed the other portion for ag. But the materials that we'd had before you, when you adopted the general plan, had the whole thing as ag res. So we did follow up with Mr. Stump, and with a meeting in Supervisor Natoli's office, sort of talked this through. Clearly the materials that we brought forward to the board during the general plan update were to show the whole parcel for ag res. And so our recommended action today for the board is to go ahead and recognize those materials that we brought forward in 2011 and show the whole parcel as ag res on the general plan. It still may be challenging for Mr. Stump to go forward and rezone it or ever achieve development. That would be a separate action and something he would have to pursue, but this would at least set the general plan.
I think it's worthy to note, too, that currently Mr. Stump and his family reside on that parcel, and at the most they could create 2 more parcels under the ag res zoning. If the zoning were changed right now, all this does is interprets the general plan designation, which allows them at some future date to seek to rezone and or divide the property if he or subsequent property owner wanted to do that. So,
right.
Any questions? Again, thank you, Leanne, to you and your staff. I know we poured through a lot of maps. Thank you, John, for certainly your persistence and leadership you provide in the community down there with the Cortland Town Council. All right, with that then, I have no one signed up to speak.
Yeah, Mr. Stump is here, but he wasn't going to speak.
John, did you want to address anything? Okay. All right, so unless there's any other questions, I would, with thanks included in the motion, move the recommendations of staff on both items 2 and 3, which would be on the environmental document, adopting the attached ordinances reflecting zoning code modifications for Cortland and Walnut Grove, and provide some direction to staff, as outlined in the staff report, to add to the list the initiation of a future project relative to addressing some of the land use questions raised in the community council discussion. And then on item 3, move the interpretation to, I guess, further clarify the general plan use designation on the aforementioned parcel in Cortland.
Second.
All right, please vote.
Unanimous vote.
Okay, thank you. Long journey. Thanks. Oh, that's fine. Okay, we don't have any appointments. We got any comments? You want to filibuster, Mr. Gill?
I'll pass.
Okay, all right. Well, we will then recess for 14 minutes and return here at 3 o'clock for the remainder of the calendar.